Hi there, friends. Jen Sykes, your friendly neighborhood Kidman director here at Diamond Canyon. And I just want to take a moment to share a quick devotion with you. We are in the middle of a tough season. And, the more and more we get into God's Word, the more and more we're encouraged, which is what we're going to talk about today. So, a few years back, my family and I had gone through a pretty grueling experience, and we had a multitude of things happen within the course of 40 days. And every rug we had under us was pulled out because, God was doing something good, and He did that to strip away anything that was distracting me personally, all of us really. From things that would distract us from getting to know Him better and from relying on Him for absolutely everything, which is what we should be doing anyway. And as I sat there one day reading my Bible, I happened to be in Mark 6, and then I was also in Matthew 14 and John 6. I'll save those verses, you'll need those. And I've been reading through this, and I found this gem. I tell you, God gives us His Word in just the right season of life to encourage us. And ever since then, this has been my go-to thing. Whenever I get nervous or afraid, this has been something that encourages me a lot. So I hope it encourages you too. I'm going to read out of Mark 6, verse 45 is where we're going to start, and I'm in the NIV today. Immediately, Jesus made His disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of Him to Bethsaida, while He dismissed the crowd. After leaving them, He went up on a mountainside to pray. Later that night, the boat was in the middle of the lake, and He was alone on land. He saw the disciples straining at the oars because the wind was against them. Shortly before dawn, He went out to them, walking on the lake. He was about to pass by them, but when they saw Him walking on the lake, they thought He was a ghost. They cried out because they all saw Him and were terrified. Immediately He spoke to them and said, "Take courage, it is I, don't be afraid." Then He climbed into the boat with them, and the wind died down. They were completely amazed, and I'm going to stop there. But, okay, so, this is, like I said, this is a gem, and it's just tucked in between Jesus feeding the 5,000 and Peter walking water. Jesus is walking on water. Walking on water is the big piece of it here. But I want you to focus on this little smidge of a thing here. So you get two miracles in the story for the price of one. It's a two for people. So the disciples had just finished up helping Jesus feed the 5,000 plus women and children too. And so He was getting away to the mountainside, probably to hide, to pray, to rest maybe. And He compels them. He says, "Go get in the boat, go on ahead of me." But He leaves out the part, "but I'll catch up," right? Because He will do just that in just a moment. So the disciples rowed out about 3 to 4 miles. So this wasn't like, oh, we're just going to hang out by shore and, go fishing. No, they were in the middle of the storm, and the wind was against them. The wind was against them, and they didn't make any progress all night. In fact, the wind was steering them off course. And so Matthew says in verse 24, they were buffeted. And the meaning of that word is they were tormented. It was grueling. They were straining. They were fighting all night long. And Jesus saw them in the midst of the wind happening. The wind was against them, but He saw them. They were 3 to 4 miles out in the fourth watch of the night, the point of lowest visibility in the evening. This is just before dawn, between 3 and 6 a.m. He saw them, and He went out to them. Boom. First miracle right there. He walked to them on the water. This is 3 to 4 miles out. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to paddle in the wading pool. No, He's out there on the water. He showed up. That phrase hit me hard. He went to them. Jesus is with me. He comes to me in the midst of struggles and strifes and storms. He's with me. Now, They don't recognize him because it's dark and there were no flashlight apps on the phone yet. And so Mark 6 says he was about to pass them by, which kind of seems confusing. But what it really should say, he was going on ahead of them. And so they could follow him. And so, they freak out and think, oh, it's a ghost. It was like a Scooby-Doo moment. Oh, roast. No, just kidding. Not really that. But 3 to 4 miles out, and he says, he says 3 things. He says, take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid. And, take courage. He's giving assurance to those who have cause to fear. Yeah, in the middle of the lake, they were probably fearing for their lives, and they were exhausted. And political stuff was happening too. So he wanted them to be filled up with courage from him. And he gives that ego, a me statement. It is I. He gives them the divine name. And now, in Matthew, that's a big deal because he's proven to the Jews he's the king, right? He says, I'm God. I'm the one who controls it all. He's declaring right there. And then the third thing he says, don't be afraid. Have no fear, none. In the presence of Jesus, all fear is cast out. So Matthew and Mark record he got into the boat and the wind died down. That was the second miracle, y'all. I told you it was a twofer. And John says he got in the boat and they were there where they were supposed to be. So they're back on course. So Jesus showed up doing only what he can do, controlling it all. He went out to them walking on the lake, and it reminded me of Job 9. God alone is one who stretches out the heavens and treads upon the waves of the sea. That was the first miracle again. Second miracle, he got in the boat and the wind died down. But even more importantly than that, he was with the disciples. He was there. Like the disciples, we are in the midst of a grueling, sometimes fear-filled season and pretty stormy right now. But Jesus sees you and me at the point where we technically shouldn't even be seen, but he sees you and me. He comes to us in the grueling seasons and he shows the world his power. He climbs into the boat with us. This is the second storm story. Pastor Guy shared about when Jesus calmed the storm, disciples are freaking out, right? It says, peace be still, calms the storm. This time he gets into the boat with them. And Jesus said to them before he got in the boat, he said, take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid. So I want to encourage you today. Remember, God's with you. He's in the boat with you. He's meeting your real needs. He's calming those storms inside. He's quelling those fears. And so, yeah, there are a lot of storms happening around us, but those storms, even though they're big, they don't matter as much because we have a peace-filled heart. We're trusting in the Lord. He has great compassion on you and me. So even if you're still struggling with fear at times, come back to this, because I want you to read this again and again. I want you to read it and read it and read it again till it's part of you, till you make it yours. And so I pray that you would understand this in the deepest part of your heart, and that you would have this quiet trust in him. Hang in there. We love you. If you need prayer, let us know. Drop us an email. info@diamondcanyon.org. You can also drop us a line on Facebook and Instagram. Diamond Canyon CC, that's our tag. You can also even hit up DC3 Canyon Kids, our kids ministry. What? And we will be happy to pray for you. We love you. Be encouraged. Take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid. Hang on to that. We love you. We're praying for you. Let us know if you need anything. We're here for you. God bless.